Yeah.
Okay, I'm still not seeing a stream.
It says it just started.
Okay.
So hello to anybody.
Excellent connection. All right.
It's opposites.
I know.
Oh, it's backwards. Only Zoom reverses it for you. Actually, I guess, does yours do it? Duo? Anytime I use anything else, I keep trying to get, I'm out of the shot.
Right. It is the opposite. And I don't know how much of a delay there is, but whatever. It's fine.
Okay, it looks good. You just waved is how long the delay is.
Oh, okay. So it's like a 30-second delay.
That's fine.
Really slow wave.
It's got to go to a satellite or something, right? So
I think they're buffering in case there's internet congestion and stuff comes in all of a sudden.
Right.
So
and how is our sound? Is our sound good? Like, is this?
That's great. Yeah.
We have a mic underneath the laptop here. I'm gonna make this a little bit closer.
Okay.
Okay. So here's what I have. I have 7:29 and 17 seconds.
Okay.
If you want to start right at exactly 7:30, then you can drop me off, and I will start it. I will click go right then.
Okay.
Okay. So you can drop me off.
And then you're going to start, right? You're going to open it up?
Okay, yes.
30 seconds, right?
Yep.
Okay. Bye. Good luck. Break a leg.
Okay. So here we are. We're officially starting.
Not yet. I think we have.
We're going to wait a few more seconds. Hello to anyone who may be already watching this.
The early birds.
Yes.
Get the worm. Wait, is that
maximum content?
Okay, I think it's go time. We want to start now.
Are we good? We're gonna start. Let's start it, right?
And according to the credits, you're Dean Haspiel and I'm Whitney Matheson.
Well.
Hi, Dean.
Okay. Well, we should say welcome, right? Do you want to say welcome?
Hello.
Am I running the show?
You're starting the show.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Emerson Avenue Salon. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Although they spell it Salon Line.
Yes, I think so.
I think Salon Online mashed together, which is really cool.
EmersonAvenueSalons.com, I believe, is the website, if that's how you found us. If not, you should go there, because what can you do over there?
Oh, you can see all kinds of great music. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yes, and there's also throughout the broadcast.
Oh, there is a donation button.
There is.
That helps support the arts and artists like me and Whitney and all the other great people Bill and Jackie have curated and hosted. So yeah, there's a donation button on their website, which if you're feeling generous, that would be really great.
Okay, well, let's give them something to be inspired to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, hi, my name is Whitney Matheson. I'm a writer. I'm a journalist. I'm many things, but also I'm a studio mate of Dean Haspiel, who is the special guest tonight. Say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, and I'm going to read a little bit of a bio. We'll be having an amazing evening with lots of comics readings and perhaps Q&A and things like that. So anyway, just a little bit about Dean before we start. Here's his bio. Dean is an Emmy award-winning cartoonist. He is best known for creating Billy Dogma, which you'll hear a little bit of tonight, and The Red Hook. You'll also hear a little bit of that, and illustrating for HBO's Bored to Death. Great show, which you can get on DVD. His published work includes writing and drawing for Marvel, DC, Archie, Image Comics, Heavy Metal Magazine, and Webtoon, and that's just an abbreviated list. It's a very long list. Dean has collaborated with Harvey Pekar, Jonathan Ames, Inverna Lopez, Jay Lynch, Jonathan Lethem, Mark Waid, Stoya, and Stan Lee. Holy moly. In addition, he is an accomplished playwright and a Yaddo Fellow. He lives right here in Brooklyn, which is where we are broadcasting from. Hello. How are you?
I'm great.
Okay.
Thanks for that introduction.
Yes.
So tonight, just to manage your expectations, we're going to break it up into 3 sections. The first section will be the longest section. I will be reading approximately 6 short stories that are more semi-autobiographical in the tradition of Memoir Comics. And then we'll take a little quick break and maybe answer any questions you might have. and then I'll read a character called Billy Dogma, the last romantic antihero. And then after that, I'll read an introduction to my current series, The Red Hook. So I guess without further ado, we will start with the first story.
And I should say, if you are watching this on YouTube, you feel free, if you leave a comment, you can leave your questions in the comments. They will be sent to us and we'll take little breaks throughout. And then at the end, of course, there'll be a little bit of Q&A session as well. Okay, here we go. Let's get rolling. Dean, hold please while I share my screen. This is very exciting. And here we go. Here we go. And now, all right, let's just make sure. Yes. Oh, let's do this. Let's do this, Dean.
Yes.
So, oh, that looks so much better.
Excellent.
Okay. Here we go.
So this first story is called Dumbo. Maybe it's because I look ornery, or maybe I look like the kind of guy who could rob somebody. Whatever. It was a nice day to shoot a movie, and my old college film classmate, Saul, asked me to act like a thief in his film, Sabotaged. The location was set in Dumbo, down under Manhattan Brooklyn overpass. And I was to wear all black and steal a purse from a lady and get busted by a superhero. Simple enough. The way we rehearsed it was, Saul's mom starts walking and I come rushing out of nowhere and snatch her purse. Suddenly, a superhero dressed in full cape and mask costume comes after me and shouts, "Stop, thief!" which, as directed, prompts me to flash him the hairy eyeball before running down the block and off camera. Saul's catalytic siren of action launches his mother's oblivious dawdling, which prompts my stealthy descent as I grab her purse and sprint down the block. The superhero screams, "Car!" And I turn my face towards him to sneer, thinking he said, "Stop, thief," when suddenly a four-wheeled metal monster comes ramming into me, full throttle, practically crushing my legs into a building. I try to halt my ascent and instead smashed my entire left side into the back of the vehicle, flipping over its hood and crashing into the sidewalk below. Within seconds, I stood up in shock, completely confused. Where had the car come from? Why did it run into me? This wasn't in the rehearsal. I was reeling. Everybody came rushing to my aid as I stumbled, feeling the pain compete with my adrenaline rush, seizing my muscles. The driver, a dirty blonde bohemian, had the look of fear in his big black eyes. He thought I was actually snatching the poor lady's purse, mistaking me for a real thief, and went Batman on me with his hatchback. But he claimed that a criminal had stolen some lady's purse the week before and figured I was the culprit, never once noticing a camera crew or a life-size superhero chasing after me. 2 days to fully consider his vigilante act, I was seeing stars and playing medic on myself. Ouch. My left thigh was smarting from the punch of the car, and my foot was burning from blue flames of pain. My left wrist and forearm was giving me the most trouble as molten hot splinters raked at my tendons. Ligaments screamed from nuggets of napalm, and my head was dizzy from nausea. Faculties compromised. I played macho and set the bohemian Batman free. "Stop, thief!" Saul exhaled with relief, but needed a final take, a reverse angle. Ow! And my adrenaline reserve was tapped after I gave him what he needed to complete the scene. The sunny day turned gray, and it started to rain. I was driven back to my apartment to lick sore wounds and attempt some freelance work, but the damage began to seep in. My health insurance plan consisted of wonton soup, regular visits to the Russian Turkish bathhouse, and a pint of ice cream. But I could hardly make it to my corner deli for a bottle of aspirin. Hollywood had different plans for me. Okay, that was the first story, Dumbo.
Should we stop sharing for a second, just so people, if you're tuning in late, this is Dean Haspiel. He started reading. We're gonna read some more Memoir Comics. Here we're gonna do a few more. Okay, and then maybe we'll have banter. Here
Thank
we
you.
go. Hold, please. Okay.
Awful George. Alphabet City, New York. Bastards. If another damn junkie snapped the basement door lock and hijacked my bike for smack, I'm gonna crap in the superintendent's mouth. That'd make 3 second-hand bikes ripped off in only 2 months. And with my salary, I can't afford another set of crummy spokes. Ugh. What's with the foul bum asylum stench? Mother dog. I was confronted by the startling sight of a woman frantically performing impromptu surgery on a kitty cat while standing over a makeshift operating table made from milk crates and a broken refrigerator door. Bloody towels and bowls of water with archaic metal instruments of varying degrees of horror were strewn about the space. Crowding the space were metal cages housing 2 to 3 cats in each one. The cats were either halfway to heaven or halfway to hell. Some cats were missing an eyeball or a tail. Others were missing a limb and or teeth. All of them were in pain and suffering. Bikes and boxes of valuables were safely stashed in the back of the basement. Nothing was stolen from the premises, only added to.
Shut that damn door. I'm trying to save lives here.
Slam! What happened?
Awful George did this.
Awful who? From her psycho rant, I ascertained that Awful George was a neighbor who lived down the street and shared adjoining apartments with his aged mother. Neighbors complained of an irreconcilable smell coming from both apartments, and upon inspection, police discovered over 100 cats. More than half the cats were dead and or partially eaten. The surviving cats had splintered off into savage tribes, killing each other for food, territory, etc. The ones that were disease-ridden were destroyed. The radical animal rights activist who stood behind me adopted the remaining cats, and she was trying to save more than just 9 lives. For a week, I visited the feline triage to bless the cats with heartfelt encouragement to live. It's going to be okay. You're going to make it. I paid extra attention to my own cats in the safety and comfort of my apartment. It's going to be okay. You're going to make it. I sought counsel from my girlfriend. But what if...
Shh. It's going to be okay. You're going to make it.
Eventually, half the cats died off, but a few were saved, adopted by animal shelters. My downstairs neighbor told me the other half of the Awful George saga.
And then...
He did not. It turns out, a week after the cat rescue, neighbors were still complaining about the offensive stink emanating from Awful George's mother's abode. Cops were called in again, but this time they came decked out in hazmat suits. In the tradition of Collier's syndrome, masses of garbage and rotted collections created a new landscape of mulch 6 feet above the floorboards. Who knew what lurked underneath? Cops mined the heap only to discover a rolled up rug with a mummified woman buried within. Awful George's mother had died a year before Sand's funeral. Nosy neighbors discovered that there had been no record of her burial, ergo, the eternal rank of death betraying covert asylum. The broken, lonely bastard was pulling an Ed Gein in New York City. Did you hear that?
Hear what?
Something moved. Shortly thereafter, Awful George was found wandering the ghetto and was sent to Bellevue Hospital to undergo psychiatric evaluation. Incredibly, George was deemed sufficiently sane and not so awful and was released to the city streets within 24 hours. A week later, my 3rd bicycle of the year was stolen. Kryptonite lock, my ass. Soon after, My girlfriend broke up with me, and I moved to Brooklyn.
Feel good story. We're moving on. Hello to everybody watching.
Hello. Story number 3.
Oh, this is a tone change.
Yes. The beautiful girl with Bolshevik breasts. Years ago, I dated a gorgeous Polish-Russian girl named Elektra, who insisted on ripping off her shirt and bra the minute she came home from work. She had beautiful breasts, and if she felt confined and needed to bear her wares, who was I to knock her? My living room has windows that face the street.
Freedom, you gotta give for what you take.
Elektra loved to sing, and she would hold a phantom microphone in her hand and croon to the songs of George Michael and Bjork while dancing topless in the living room.
I'm going hunting. I'm the hunter.
She was more fun than horror movies and a bottle of bourbon. One evening, while ogling Elektra's bobbing nipples as she performed her one-woman concert come striptease, my eyes caught an act of shady stealth. I discovered an old man from across the street staring in awe from his window, and I alerted Elektra of her newfound boyfriend. She faced the neighbor with full frontal flair and began to sing George Michael's I Want Your Sex. She had a great sense of humor, but the old man was shy as he pulled his shade back, ashamed of getting busted for his appreciation. Curtains rippled several times as the old man stole sneak peeks from within the dark. I realized my orchestra seat was far superior to the old man's bleacher seat and eventually ignored him to indulge my girlfriend. 20 minutes later, Elektra and I were laughing about the incident when I noticed bursts of red and blue lights bouncing off her breasts. I snapped my eyes toward the source of party lights, only to discover an ambulance parked downstairs. I gasped as I looked up to the old man's window, only to see his curtains flapping in the wind and the window wide open. I looked back downstairs, and there he was, lying on a stretcher with an oxygen mask, being carried into the ambulance by 2 paramedics. The old man had gotten such a thrill from Elektra's topless review that it had caused him cardiac arrest. To be honest, Elektra was flattered that her breasts could cause such a life-threatening reaction, but felt bad for the old man because he never returned home. A few months later, Elektra dropped the dreaded H-bomb on me and declared my budding art career a hobby and wondered when I would get a real job. Despite her desire to perform, Elektra was a practical girl and worked in finance and preferred security to risk. It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. Alas, our philosophical differences led us to disbanding, and I was no longer the recipient of nude happy hour karaoke in my living room.
All right, we're moving forward. There's a twist ending with that one, that last one.
Okay, this one's called Master Plan. I'm riding my bike in Carroll Gardens when my hip vibrates with a digital jingle. I skid to a stop near a schoolyard to answer my cell phone, and by the time I flip open my clamshell, the signal goes dead. That's when the rubber bounce of a ball catches my ear and my eyes snap to the left. I see a basketball smacking concrete and making small hops as it dribbles toward me like a magnet. I look up and see a hulk of a black man walking towards me. I should feel a sense of danger, but there's a puzzle piece missing to this picture. I feel like a hook caught in a gill. Great. The Hulk bends down, and that's when the reveal is made. Behind him, a good 30 feet away, is a wheelchair parked under a basketball hoop. In the wheelchair is a little boy wearing thick eyeglasses. His arms are mangled, yet spaz and wriggle uncontrollably with hyperactivity. He has stumps where his legs should be. The Hulk retrieves the ball, looks back up at me with those faraway eyes, cracks a tired yet genuine smile, and turns around. It doesn't matter how many times he's got to go get that ball or if it takes all day. That kid in the wheelchair is going to get one in the hoop. And this is the next story, and we'll reveal the title at the end. I'm riding my bicycle down Clinton Street when I see an ambulance blocking the middle of the road. I look to see what the cops and paramedics are looking at, and it's a well-dressed, white-haired little lady cuddled next to the back wheel of a parked car, clutching her cell phone. She's beside herself, trying to push the right numbers to reach her husband, but she can't.
I need to call my husband. I need to call my husband. I need to call my husband.
She says this as if she needs to call him to say goodbye. The paramedic leans in and tells her to calm down. Everything's going to be okay.
I need to call my husband.
The paramedic wants the old lady to hand over her cell phone so they can pull her out from under the parked car. The old lady won't let go of the phone. She needs to call her husband one last time. I feel a chill crawl up my spine and it makes me dizzy. I feel bad watching. I can't stand it when I can't do anything to help, even when professionals are doing their job. As they figure out a way to pry her from the space she fell under, I cycle slowly around the ambulance, silently wishing her well. On the other side of the ambulance is a sports car with two Spanish thugs dressed in gang gear, looking white as a sheet. They're clutching their cell phones too. Their eyes are guilty, full of remorse, and locked in on the old lady's plight. I put two and two together and realized that they were the ones who called 911. I bike past the thug's sports car and look back one last time. Splayed across their windshield is a one-word decal painted heavenly white in a hip-hop font. It says, "Breathe."
And then this is the last one.
This is the last one of the Memoir Comics. Mm-hmm. And did you want to check to see if there was any comments or anything?
Oh, we can.
Show our faces?
Let's see. Well, hello to everybody who's watching.
Hi.
Yes.
We're getting some comments here. Yes, my life is fairly noir. And I see that our studio mate, Ken, knows the Silence of the Lambs reference I made in one of the stories. And Mandy's calling us racy. That's cool. All right.
Yes, but that racy story has such a tragic
I know. I'm trying.
It goes from like
there's a lot of heartfelt stuff here. So
breast to the stretcher. All right. Here we go for the last of the memoir.
Okay. This first reference is actually from one of my favorite movies, Once Upon a Time in the West. It stars oh God, what's his name? Death Wish guy, Charles Bronson, and several other, and Henry Fonda, and a lot of great actors. No, you brought too many. Beef with tomato. Bzzzt, bzzzt. Huh? Good. A zombie apocalypse was the first thought that occupied my mind when the blackout happened. Chalk it up to reading too many Jack Kirby and Johnny Craig monster comic books and enjoying too many late-night Hammer horror movies. But once my brain settled, it was the post-traumatic stress disorder blues that kicked in, and the sobering reality check that normal people could wreak worse havoc than an uprising of the dead. I quickly surmised that during desperate times, one could negotiate friends and family, but a stranger in need would test the very nature and endurance of humanity. Ever since the tragic events of 9/11 and the ensuing war thereafter, everybody was walking on eggshells, waiting for the proverbial other shoe to drop. And I was reminded by mankind's innate behavior that we're trained to practice courtesy and taught good manners, but when push comes to shove, we're all teetering on the edge of slipping backwards into the savage resolve of our Neanderthal ancestors. And when the going gets rough, the rough gets primal with a booster shot of raw adrenaline and anything your fists can make mulch with. Thus were the panicked feelings prompted by the Northeast blackout of 2003, a massive, widespread outage affecting over 55 million people during the late afternoon of a mid-August day. Luckily, noxious fumes bellowing from the window broke my neurotic spell as I heard rants and raves crying a communal foul on the street below. My obnoxious neighbor, a wealthy architect protected by his gated carriage house, insisted on being the only resident to enjoy electricity while the rest of us plugged our collective olfactory from the loud noise and rancid pollution his generator emitted. Thankfully, my fears of a cataclysmic zombie massacre were temporarily stifled when unanswered questions to a sudden blackout had an interim villain to point our fingers at. Despite the relief of an ad hoc bad guy, dusk was starting to settle and candles and batteries were rapidly becoming scarce, albeit high-cost items. Who knew how long the blackout was going to last? Pots of spaghetti were cooked and consumed by my neighbors as we caught up with each other's lives and listened to my radio for status reports. Alas, it was the summer heat and a mass deluge of cranked up air conditioning units that compromised the system and left us in the dark. Ring! For some reason, landlines were functioning and an unexpected phone call from my ex-girlfriend interrupted the neighborly parley, and her tender voice caused me concern. I'll be there as soon as I can. She didn't sound scared, but I knew that if my ex-girlfriend called me, it meant something was awry. The near-blind bike ride prompted paranoia of getting attacked by thugs and looters before I could complete my serpentine trek between Carroll Gardens and Park Slope. The city had lost its omniscient hum, and the eerie quiet contrasted with the pitter-patter of vandal feet sparked thoughts of mortality as I pondered my premature demise. A girl's ass. How do you think you're going to die? A question I'd never fully considered until today. And my first and only answer was, a girl's ass. One day, I'm going to be riding my bike down Union, and a fly girl is going to be walking down the street, and her ass is going to be doing that thing where it moves side to side, and up and down, bouncing between heaven and hell. And it's going to have a soundtrack, Planet Rock, by Africa Mabata and the Soul Sonic Force. And then it'll be over, just like that. And I'll be dead, crushed by a car I never saw coming. When I finally arrived to the far side of Park Slope, my ex-girlfriend was happy and drunk. Her neighbors had safely quarantined their brownstone utopia with mini campfire sites, and everyone had pulled out their secret stashes of hooch like a speakeasy-inspired block party. I was handed a glass of whiskey and encouraged to sing songs while people roasted marshmallows and shared their favorite New York stories. I thought about my personal history with the boroughs and pondered the perfect New York City day. There's the New York City that tourists visit, and then there's the New York City that natives partake in and keep on the down low. Like a Jackie Gleason Honeymooner rerun or an issue of the Fantastic Four that comes out every month since before you were born, there are places in the city you can always count on being there. Beef with tomato over white rice, with hot and sour soup and steamed dumplings. I've been coming here since I was an embryo in my mother's womb, eating the same dishes. Comfort food at its most base. WoHop is open 24 hours a day in New York City, where cops and robbers can eat next to each other in a hassle-free zone before breaking their embargo in the streets above this subterranean haven. For dessert, there are classic video games to be conquered across the street at the Chinatown Fair Video Arcade with a photo booth to record the whole affair. And what kept the arcade archaic for so many years was a live rooster that played tic-tac-toe via electric shock for 50 cents a game. However, eating in public wasn't always fun and games. When I was a teenager, Times Square presented a mortal challenge at a Chinese food buffet, where a drunken Greek mobster flew off the handle for no good reason. What's your tray, Gamoto? Die, Gamoto! Scared that he was reaching for a gun to shoot my family, I dove towards the crazed man and pressed hard against his chest. My family rallied and brought the pain with the pride and roar of 1,000 mad lions. When the proprietors called the police, it was confirmed that the Greek mobster was holding a pistol with intent to kill. That was the day I earned my third eye and learned to expect the unexpected in the Big Apple. On my 16th birthday, my father gifted me a visit to the Russian Turkish bathhouse, where I learned to steep in hot steam and breathe in the soothing oils of eucalyptus. I encountered my first full body massage when a mute Polish woman scrubbed my very soul with Dead Sea salts, sending my mind to Venus and back. I've been broiling in the healing fires of that East Village inferno ever since. For 20th century nostalgia, there's no better place to visit than Coney Island, home of the Wonder Wheel, Mermaid Parade, Freak Show, Polar Bear Club, the recently demolished Astroland replaced by Luna Park, and many other attractions, including the Cyclone, which continues to stand the test of time and challenges one's capacity for fear, where at 55 miles per hour, you can witness the screws unhinging as the roller coaster rattles its wooden frame with every descending loop and turn, matched only by the devastating body slams of the bumper car ride, where wit and stealth is the key to avoiding whiplash. It was smarter to skip the rides where a man stood by with a bucket and mop for rider vomit and instead play skee ball, where winning tickets scored you a carnival prize. When I was a kid, my father would visit the local steam rooms while the rest of my family sunbathed and swam in the Atlantic Ocean. My brother and I would play pinball on the boardwalk and eat ice cream and French fries for lunch. My family would rendezvous at Nathan's hot dog stand at 5 o'clock on the dot, where they still serve chow mein on a bun, and we drive to Wohop for dinner. Our family avoided death twice one Saturday when my father arrived 5 minutes late, missing a car that crashed into Nathan's and ripped a woman's leg clean off. Then we decided to leave Wohop when the line to get inside proved too long. That evening, a gang war erupted on the premises and people were murdered.
Rise and shine. Milk, no sugar, just how you like it.
Steam rooms, cyclones, and beef with tomato. My love letter to New York City. Alas, things hadn't worked out for us. She still carried a torch for an old flame.
Thanks for checking in on me.
Be well. Even though the blackout was still in effect, I felt refreshed, renewed, ready. Okay.
Okay, we'll take a tiny break.
Hello, everybody. You can see us? Hi.
Hi. Oh my goodness. Nice comments from people. Tell me.
About Memoir Comics?
Yeah, I have a few questions. One is, why do you like doing Memoir Comics?
Well, there's a tradition to Memoir Comics, hailing back as far as, and I've worked with the great late Harvey Pekar. Famously wrote, I think, 40 years worth of material in comics about his life. He lived in Cleveland. He worked with many different artists. And in fact, if we have enough time, I might show you a process thing piece that I, showing working with Harvey Pekar. So Harvey Pekar, R. Crumb, and for a long time, lots of people did Memoir Comics in the independent small press circles. Not Marvel and DC, of course. They do more superhero comics and genre comics. And I think, everybody has a story to tell. And, there's something about comics that are innate. Like as a child, you can draw a stick figure and put a word balloon on top of it, and it starts there, or it starts back to even the cave wall paintings, like we're telling stories through pictures or showing stories. So I think if you don't feel comfortable making up characters, you have your own life that you can impart and convey. And I think, and I've worked with authors like Jonathan Ames, Harvey Pekar, Inverna Lopez, and told a lot of their kind of semi-autobiographical stories, and as well as my own. So I really enjoy doing that. As I get older, I do it less, although I do definitely have more stories to tell. And now there's a big, huge boom in the YA, the young adult market. It's so many graphic novels filled with memoir stories, by all stripes and colors and creeds and everybody. Like it's become probably in a way as popular as the superhero genre in the book market. So, and again, everybody has a story to tell. So with this next story I'm going to perform with Whitney, it's a character I created called Billy Dogma. And Billy Dogma is kind of an avatar for me. And where, well, in Memoir Comics, it's supposed to be based on fact and, you know, plausibility. What I like about creating a character that's kind of a removed version of me is that it becomes, I get to tell more emotionally true stories, which is the title of this salon, this episode. And I feel like, sure, I can dig deep in Memoir Comics, but there's something about having the latitude of creating a fake character that also represents me in a lot of ways and can also get a little wilder and again, express itself in a more emotional capacity. And so this story is called The Last Romantic Antihero.
And we had somebody who said they had to run out of the room when there was a topless person in a previous comic. So if you're bothered by that, I can't wait to hear about their reaction to these next ones.
I'm sorry. There are some mature themes. And if there's problems with that, you may want to, I think the Golden Globes are on right now or something. So I apologize for my mature themes.
All right. Also, you get injured a lot. I've noticed.
I do.
In your Memoir Comics. Hope you're doing all right.
I ache a lot.
Yeah. Lots of getting hit by cars. All right. Here we go. One more time. Sorry, it takes a second. And then we'll come back after this one for a few more of your questions. If you've got questions, keep leaving them.
Billy Dogma in The Last Romantic Antihero. The sad part was that nobody saw it coming. Atoms did not split and incinerate us. Oceans did not rise and swallow our cities whole. The sky did not fall. When the apocalypse happened, we were already living it. It wormed its way into our daily routine and transitioned into an epidemic of global narcissism where apathy and indifference held sway. What started as techno-social networking soon became a weaponized cyber disease that infected our culture, mass murdered our youth, and annihilated the promise of a better tomorrow. When we should have been back to back, battling the threat tooth and nail, we wound up face to face, catatonic, and handing over the keys. We no longer spoke with each other, we spoke at each other. We didn't know how to live together anymore, and we forgot how to care. It was up to those who knew life before we gave the Matrix permission to splice us together and expose the anemia of our communal delinquency. But what about me? But what about me? It was up to the chosen few to rally the future of mankind. The pulse that kept us alive and interesting came from the farmers, the builders, and the creative class, and their nearly futile desire to evolve and express. Alas, Trip City was the only place left on this scorched earth that brandished two titans, where one heart craved the other in order to exist. Their romance betrayed a spark of hope that love could save the world. Had we not been burned for saving Trip City's water tower from a wind-stoked wildfire, we wouldn't have to hunt and ration rare root relief in the blistering sun.
The burdens we bear, baby cakes. Ah, the cool ooze of cosmic aloe.
There's only enough for you, Sugar Snap.
If you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of me?
Oh, Jane. The first time I saw you was like a death-defying car crash on my body, mind, and soul.
Hi.
I'd never known the debilitating power of pure, naked attraction. The blood that courses through our heart and veins makes us prickly with feelings, and I was resurrected. It was during my recovery from setting eyes on you that I figured out what had happened. At first, I rejected you for fear of losing my independence. Catatonically smitten, I became obsessed with the idea of you, Jane legit. But I hadn't let go of my last love. She was a girl with bee-sting lips, magnesium thighs, and a skeleton heart. I miss you. I'm mad at you. I can't believe you abandoned me. I wish we could have made it work. I never want to see you again. Our love was a 5-alarm bonfire that exploded white and fizzled black when it needed to be a blue glow that could yield to each other's virtues. I know she loved me and I loved her. We just couldn't love each other together. Hey, Jane, I busted the human barcode for price gauging trends again and pulled its plug. Now you can snag that hip sundress at its current market value fair and square. Break a leg at the Lunar Eclipse Dance Hall contest tonight.
Oh, gee.
Hey, Jane, I'm going to have to take a rain check on that $1 million meal and $1 billion movie. Me and the undercover cop will be at our Mexican standoff, agreeing to disagree.
Oh, man.
Hey, Jane, what say we knock sugar and give the loneliest photo booth in the world a reason to steal a kiss?
Aw, shucks.
And that's when I clean my slate to mate with fate and make Jane my dame. You're my blue glow, babe.
You spark the napalm in my apocalypse.
You know, the moon has a dark side and we never get to see it because it's permanently turned away from Earth. With the hassles I've been through, I'm afraid there might be a dark side to my heart.
You think too much. Let me light up your heart and see what we find.
You send me, Jane. Hey, how'd that get in there?
I put it there. And until they learn how to make these things waterproof and stop sneaking them into our home and under our pillows, I'm going to continue destroying them, one at a time.
But what about me?
But what about me?
But what about me? What about me?
What about us?
What in the world? Hell's Half Acre.
Kaboom! Crash!
A new storm is on the horizon. It's not enough just to make the love anymore. I can feel it in my gut. We have to make the new love, Jane.
What's the new love?
I'm not sure. We have to find out, even if it means dying to make it. We did it. They're giving birth to the blueprint of a better tomorrow.
I can't wait to see what they do.
Crumble. Hell's Half Acre. You can't do this, Billy and Jane. It's already begun, mercenary. It's against Mom and God and law. Hi.
Hi.
The end. Or the beginning. So that is that's one of my stronger Billy Dogma stories. I've also done a graphic novel with him. I've done a lot of web comics with Billy Dogma, and I hope to return back to Billy Dogma some point soon. And then before we get to the next one, I just wanted to see if there's any questions here.
Yes, yes. Oh, someone said, oh no, another naked lady, which is
Mandy.
True. Yes, yes. I have a question. Can you give us like a timeline? When was the memoir stuff done versus when was the Billy Dogma stuff done?
So the memoir comics that I've been presenting tonight were largely written and drawn, I believe, in 2007 and 2008. And I had been on a good run of doing producing semi-autobiographical comics, again, with Jonathan Ames on The Alcoholic, with Harvey Pekar on American Splendor, and a graphic novel called The Quitter. And I also drew a graphic novel called Cuba, My Revolution, written by Inverno López. And those three were published by Vertigo, which was an imprint of DC Comics. And my memoir stuff was published first online through an initiative called DC Comics Webcomics Initiative called Zuda, that has then been collected into a book called Beef with Tomato, if you want to read more stories. And there's also prose in that book. There's a little bit of prose as well. And then the Billy Dogma one, I believe, was done 10 years ago. 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was probably my last. Although I've done maybe a couple of little smaller Billy Dogma stories, and again, I want to return and tell more stories. But there's a graphic novel you can get, or maybe not. It might be sold out, called Fear My Dear.
Can I ask you a couple questions that people have sent in? Someone wants to know if you're a fan of Will Eisner.
Oh, absolutely. I love Will Eisner. One of the things that his work taught me was that landscape, real space, streets, buildings was a character, was a living, breathing character. In fact, that will enter into my next phase that we'll talk about later. But Will Eisner is, so I'm a big fan of Jack Kirby, Will Eisner, C.C. Beck, who drew Shazam way back in the day. I'm trying to think of others. I was, in 1985, I was 17 going on 18, and it was my senior year of high school. I went to Music and Art High School, and in my senior year, Music and Art got married to Performing Arts and became LaGuardia High School. And after school, I would run downtown with my friend Larry O'Neill, and we would assist these other cartoonists who taught me a lot. Howard Chaykin, Walter Simonson, and Bill Sienkiewicz, as well as Dennis Cowan and a couple other cartoonists that were around. And it was better than any art school I could possibly take, even though I was in art school. And I think, for a long time, there's a stigma attached to comic books. Like, power fantasies for 12-year-old boys. And that's true to some extent. But now, as illustrated even by tonight, they can be about anything. And so hopefully the viewers are getting a kick out of this and discovering a whole new platform of storytelling.
Yes, and we're going to look at some of the process stuff maybe after we read this next comic real quick. But should we get into the next one? So the next comic is Will Eisner inspired, as well as Jack Kirby and another artist named Alex Toth. Part of the challenge I created for myself was, what if Jack Kirby and Alex Toth got together and created a character with a little bit of Will Eisner thrown in? And it's called The Red Hook, and I'm going to read you the first 2 chapters of season 1/book 1 that you can also get from Image Comics, your local store or online. And here's going to be the first 2 chapters. Okay, here we go, and then we'll be back. Sorry, it takes a second. So this is the book cover for volume 1, and I'm just completing the 4th season right now online at Webtoon. And Webtoon is a free app that you can get on your phone or laptop or tablet or whatever, and you can read more stories. It started the day the white flags replaced the American flags atop the Brooklyn Bridge. Some shouted, "Stunt," while others cried, "Heresy." Most people ignored the warning signs, while pundits posited that Brooklyn gave up or called it quits. They were only half right. The white flags were an omen of things to come. 6 days later, Brooklyn pulled itself apart away from the rest of New York State and seceded, literally. The bridges snapped in half and tunnels filled with water, and the world felt a seismic shift in nature. Lives were lost. The residents and refugees of Brooklyn were rife with questions and repair as society debated the pros and cons of such a massive transition from borough to aisle. There were rumors that the heart of Brooklyn was broken, wounded by a self-entitled, indifferent society spoiling the promise of a better tomorrow. Cheers for doing the heavy lifting, Black Breath. That day, Brooklyn shrugged and challenged humanity to return back to a time when people were defined by their ethics, values, and contributions. Drop the gold, Red Hook. A place where skills and art could be bartered and traded, and soil farmed to sustain life and spawn beauty. Rumble, 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 rumble. A dawn where guardians would be born to supervise a new era
a new Brooklyn, a new republic that could protect itself and exploit the fruits of new ideas and conquer new problems and new villains with new heroes. By crook or by hook. 1 year later. Stealing what stolen isn't really stealing, is it?
Not really, but it will look positively famous over our bed.
They wouldn't dare curate an exhibition like this in Red Hook where the streets are our museum.
God bless America.
Not anymore, not since the Great Secession. So says New Brooklyn.
And now, New Brooklyn is practically begging us to preserve and protect street art in our home, far away from corporate measures to exploit outlier voices.
Bravo. Your art police polemics makes me want to puke.
I beg to differ. Now that our normal currency has become compromised, everyone's wondering what to trade for food and services. Art is prettier than a promissory note and will trump all other bartering trends within a year. So stash them if you got them.
Art is only as valuable as its popular perception. We all know how fickle fame can be. Now quit waxing the amateur stock market predictions and pony up the stash before your grubby diminish the perceived value of this street art. Bensonhurst, what brings you here? When I hired the possum, I was afraid she'd bring on freelance talent, but I didn't think she'd rally the Red Hook. I should have known better. No sweat, boss. Now we can split the proceeds 50-50. My guess it doesn't matter who shares the score with me. This rare piece of street art will go for a pretty penny in the United States of America and buy me stuff New Brooklyn no longer sells. Bang! Ah, my knee!
Rickshawed by the Red Hook.
Well played, my slippery sweetheart.
When the cops come, please say hi from us. We have a reputation to perpetuate.
Break a leg with that. You're dead to me, you hear? Walking dead. So that's the end of the introduction to the Red Hook.
That's great. Here's a question I have. There are a few more questions, and then maybe we can look at some process stuff really quickly.
Sure.
I just want to know, you've talked a little bit about the art and art influences, but especially with like the Billy Dogma stuff. And what about the writing? What about that kind of style that you have? It's a lot of
It's a lot of words.
It's a lot of like colorful verbs and alliteration.
Alliteration.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, I grew up reading old Marvel comics, and Stan Lee was a wizard with words, you know, like I love, and speaking of alliteration, so I think Stan Lee definitely, steered me toward writing in a certain way, very verbose. Well, Chris Claremont, who wrote X-Men for many years. I love a lot of that kind of flavorful comic book writing. There's a writer named Joe R. Lansdale who writes crime novels. I love the way he writes characters. Shakespeare actually is also a person that I've read a lot of, and I dabble in theater. I write plays, and in theater, you have to behave and act, and there's some action on the stage, but it's carried by the words. So, in fact, the way I just said that is very William Shatner. I feel like certain actors. I also put actors in my head when I'm writing characters, because it can't all be me, right? Or you or friends or family or whoever. So I also, I'm inspired by certain actors. There's an actor named Eric Roberts who I love, the way he performs words. I love an actor who will chew up a scene, even though that's sometimes a no-no. Those are the ones I gravitate towards, and that is clearly how I write. So that's some of the people that influence me.
And hello to Chris in Cleveland. Speaking of,
hey Chris, how you doing?
He says that, number one, he donated. Thank you very much. That's so kind. If you want to support the arts and support Dean, you can donate through the website, which is
Emerson Avenue
Salons.com. EmersonAvenueSalons.com. Okay, but Chris also says in interviews and in your work, there seem to be Buddhism, Zen thoughts. How important is that to you?
So I'm how do I put this? So I think about religion when you just said Buddhism or Zen, or like, it's very spiritual. I feel like, I'm half Jewish. My mother's Catholic. My father's Jewish. I was baptized in Episcopalian, but I grew up with no kind of religion in my household, even though we have those attachments to us. And then reading comic books, I kind of found a certain kind of spirituality reading, science fiction stories, fantasy. So I feel like there's a lot of spirituality in those stories. There's a lot of like unanswered questions. I like one of the reasons why I love Jack Kirby is because he dared to question the idea of God and then answered it in his work. And I like to do that as well, even though I don't practice any kind of formal religions or anything like that. But maybe I kind of do in my own way, or we all have to arrive at it in our own way. And so maybe, and actually my best friend Mike Houston is a Buddhist. So I would go over his house, age 12, 13, 14, 15, and as a teenager, and his mother or he would be chanting, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and that kind of stuff. And I always wondered what that was about. And he taught me a little bit about that. Again, I don't practice any of it, but I kind of express it through my work. So I think that there is a sense of Zen because of that. Although as an artist, we're just filled with anxiety. So trying to find that sweet Zen spot is probably why I do the work that I do.
So should we look at just a few slides of
so I'm just going to show you a couple examples for people who don't know how comics are made. Here's some examples of how some of the stories I've drawn at least look like.
Okay.
So this is a page from the graphic novel I drew, Cuba, My Revolution, written by Inverno Lopez. And we're not going to read it through. I'm just going to kind of show you, well, this is what a script looks like, where 47.1 here is page 47, panel 1. 47.2 is page 47, panel 2, so on and so forth. And usually there'd be a description. And in this case, it says possibly go a little surreal here. And in order to do that, I have to read the caption and the dialogue, and then I'll show you what I arrived at. And then there are other instructions, like in 47.2, suddenly the Jeep pitches to one side and shakes. And there are other descriptions and instructions, but also I have the latitude to talk to my editor and talk to the writer and be able to talk this stuff out. So that's also part of the process. So here are the pencils that I did. And then I did have some fun and got a little surreal. Cuba famously looks kind of like an alligator. And there was this Jeep traveling across part of Cuba, and I had this Jeep traveling across the alligator that also the characters faced in the story were these alligators. And then it drops into this scene with Castro and our protagonist that arrives. And then Jose Villarrubia did this great color schema of using just the color red and gray tones and using white as a color, as you can see here. Lettered by Patrick Brousseau and edited by Joan Hilty. This was published by Vertigo/DC Comics. So this is just one example. And then you can see how I also, when I laid it out, which I didn't show here, and I'll show you in other examples, I also have to figure out where the word balloons go so that I understand how the page works. This is a story that actually I wrote. So this is an example of how I write a script, where I write the page number and the panel with descriptions. Even though I'm drawing it, I'm like writing this for the artist. That would, in this case, be me. And then I have character descriptions, sound effects, and all that kind of stuff. And then this is how I lay it out. Now what's important to know about a layout like this is it looks big on your screen. But honestly, this layout is what we call a thumbnail layout. it's about 3 inches tall. It's not that big. So I'm pretty hyper detailed in the way I construct a page and try to exploit the virtues of words and pictures and the real estate of the page. And this is what the pencils look like. And then the reason why you have to do tight pencils sometimes is when you're working on franchise characters. This is a comic I did starring the Thing from the Fantastic Four and a character called Wood God, is that you have to send this to the editor and they have to approve every step that it takes to create a page. And ultimately, this is what it looks like after it's been inked. And then I colored it and I lettered it. So this is all a one-stop shop Dean comic that was published for Marvel Comics. It's part of a bigger story. What's interesting about this as an example is this is how Harvey Picar used to write scripts. And he would just take a piece of typewriter paper and draw lines down it and, write down all the words that he wanted in the script and then basically draw a stick figure. Sometimes there might be a table or his version of a car or something, but he left a lot of the design of the page up to the artist. So it would just depend on the artist. And notice that there's a stairway that he draws in the 4th panel. And I broke it up. I believe I took this one piece of paper and turned this into 2 pages of comics. Over here, you'll see that I did some, again, just these small thumbnails that are blown up here to give a sense of storytelling. And I have him writing at his art table. And then there's all these books and that he's, confounded by. He feels he's being overwhelmed by all his books. And then he's walking down the stairs. And then he basically crashes out on his couch throughout this narrative. These are the pencils I did. And you can see that I had a lot of fun with like these towers of swirling books that are kind of like almost becoming anthropomorphic and like a Pixar film or something. And he's, trying to step around them and he's just bringing out these books and he just takes a nap. And I try to use the space and it gets a little surreal because of that. And this is what the pages look like when they were done. This was a black and white comic, so there was no color for this. And then there's the other page as well. And I try to use black as a color in a black and white comic so that it shapes the negative space. And it draws your eye to what it needs to see. This is a Fantastic Four story that I drew, written by Elliot Kalan for an anthology. And these were the way he writes a script and he delivers instructions, panel 1, Mr. Fantastic's talking, and then there's, the Dr. Doom is in this page. And, if you're familiar with the Fantastic Four, and, you have to sit there and really read the story and figure out how to break it down. And once again, a thumbnail layout, pretty small, looks nice and big here. And then I go into pencils and that gets approved. And finally, someone else colored this and someone else lettered this by Marvel Comics. And I think that's the last one.
I think so, which is perfect timing.
This is perfect timing. So it's 8:30. I wonder if there's any other questions here.
Yes. Let's see. There are. Do you do all of that with a brush? So what in terms of the tools that you use?
Right.
We talk about that.
So I like to draw on a blue pencil these days because what's cool about drawing in blue pencil is that when I scan the artwork after it's been inked, I don't need to erase the pages. So there's a lot of blue line artwork on my original art, but what gets scanned in is the black ink lines that I put down. And I do use a Japanese brush pen. I also use microns for like straighter lines. And I use a jet pen, which kind of has like what I call like a broken tip, because one of the things I enjoy is, as much as I like to control what things look like, I also like the deliberate accidents that happen with a brush, like you get a dry brush pull effect on a certain kind of paper, or with the jet pen, because it's a little wiggly, I can't fully control it. So it creates a certain line that's a little unexpected. After a while you master something and then you get bored with it, So that's why how I use the tools. And I usually draw the original art about 10 inches wide by 15 inches tall. And I scan them in and then resize them and color them. I color them digitally. And these days I letter them digitally as well. So Anyway, I think
I know. Should we hop over?
We should hop over. Whoever wants to get to the Zoom talk.
So now there'll be kind of a Zoom Q&A
Right.
interactive thing. You can see the link at emersonavenuesalons.com. There you can also there's a link to donate if you like what you've seen this evening. And I guess that's all. That's all. You got anything else?
I do. I want to
Okay.
thank you, Whitney, for
Well,
helping
thank
me on this journey
No,
tonight.
this is super fun.
I want to thank Bill and Jackie so much for inviting me to do this. I want to thank Jen Ferguson. And I also want to thank the Emerson Avenue Salon patrons for watching tonight and being a part of this. So look forward to see you possibly on the Zoom talk.
Yes.
And smash that donate button. Thank you so much.
The party continues. Thank you, Dean. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. See you in a minute.